This is Inside the Game, where passion meets precision. Jonathan Turner, Nathan Wangler, and John Natale are your hosts, breaking down every goal, every controversy, every match that matters. From the heart of American soccer to the global stage. No fluff, just football. Weekdays at 9 a.m. live on YouTube, Roku TV, Facebook, Twitter, and all listening platforms.
Welcome to Inside the Game on the National Soccer Network. Now, here are your hosts, Jonathan Turner, Nathan Wangler, and John Natale.
Oh, we have some work to do.
2 of the 3. Not the
It's
third.
a new beginning, my friend. It's a new
beginnings. Brand new beginnings. Hello, everybody, and welcome on episode 102 of Inside the Game is live. Nate Wangler alongside John Natale. Jonathan Turner celebrating his final episode yesterday. Although, Natale, and I told you I was in some way expecting this, and I got confirmation of this morning. I had a feeling JT would find a way to wiggle his way back in one way or the other. Because even at the end of that episode yesterday, I'm like, there's no way, there is 0% chance that this conversation ends right here. All right, it's going to bleed over in one way or the other. Now, my man's got meetings this morning, so he can't actually be on the show. Meetings, yeah, exactly. He's watching very carefully right now.
Yeah, that ghost account's going to end up in the comments.
Good morning, Michael. Welcome back on, my man.
How you doing, Michael?
Gave me a call this morning, as I guarantee you gave you one as well. And the first thing he said was, did you see the news? And I'm over here thinking something great happened. I'm over here thinking, something miraculous at the network, or we got a new sponsor. Yeah, talking points. Exactly. And he goes, did you see how bad the attendance was for the FIFA Club World Cup game? The Chelsea game? And I did, and we're going to talk about that here today. We're going to get into that a little bit, but I think it is an interesting subject nonetheless, and so we're definitely going to touch on that because I think it's unique, despite the fact that we are in the United States. A lot of these things are still being crafted for the fans that are not in the U.S., so I think it's interesting to talk about that a little bit. But welcome back on, everyone. Appreciate you guys joining us. Second episode back after taking the week off yesterday. By the way, to those of you who were expecting a show last week but didn't get one, I wanted to apologize. I know we took a little time away, but the truth is, kind of like what JT said yesterday, everybody needs a break every now and again. Probably a different way.
I wouldn't say it was a break. It's not like we didn't want to do it. We knew, even though it was still shocking, we kind of knew that we had to regroup. So it was just rebuilding is what we were doing.
Rebuilding, reshaping, recentering. Yep. So now we're off and racing here again.
Now we're laser focused.
Locked in. Before we get into the bigger subject.
Yeah, talk about this. You had a cool conversation with your friend yesterday, and I think it's a great topic.
And it's something that I think is a little more open-ended, and maybe people have different opinions on it, but we were talking about this yesterday. And my friend was mentioning, and we just got onto the subject because we were listening to Queen. And we started talking about who is the greatest singer of all time. We've had this conversation about soccer before, right? Everybody in the soccer space, specifically in the youth club game, they're all looking for the next GOAT, right? They're all looking for the next greatest. They want to have their name on that when they get up to the professional level. I think that's part of the reason why we identify talent so young, is because everybody wants their claim to fame when it comes to that side. But on the singing side, I have a very important question before we get into the soccer-related topics. John Natale, who's the greatest singer of all time, in your opinion?
So this is so ironic that you bring this up, because my fiance and I, Adrian, were actually talking about this yesterday. So it's really weird. You had the same conversation. We're bringing it in today. So when we were going through singing, now there are a ton of amazing singers out there, amazing singers. But what it boiled down to me was, who is the most distinct of any era? And you can say, I mean, there's like Robert Plant, There is Brian Johnson of AC/DC. There's Axl Rose of Guns N' Roses. And you can hear all those ways, Bono, U2. But when it actually comes to iconic voices that as soon as you hear it, you know who they're from and you know who it is. And they sound great. And if you heard any song by this particular band, the first note that they sing, you're like, boom, know who that is. And it's Jonathan Davis of Korn.
Okay. That's a deep cut. So you're going because of the uniqueness of his voice.
He has
You think
done
it's something
so
that
many
makes him
compilations, yes.
That's fair.
And it's carried over to hard rock. I mean, Korn, I don't consider them metal. I consider them very hard rock. They were what created new metal. So just their influence alone is huge. But Jonathan Davis has done stuff in concertos. He's done stuff for country. He's done stuff on the soft rock side. And as soon as he belts out a note, you know it's him. And he does it so well. He doesn't really change his style. He just knows how to work it in to those other areas, those other disciplines. It's not where they try to adapt to him. Like a country is not going to tune their guitars down to A and start playing music like that. He's going to conform to that country music, and he does it magically and masterfully. So I'm giving the nod to Jonathan Davis.
And as someone who works even in the broadcasting sphere, I understand what it means to try and play with your voice, toy with your voice, because it's when it's the moneymaker, you have to understand what your range is and where you can go to it. And you can, when you know where your natural register is, you can do so many different things with that. So it's almost kind of understanding your instrument. It's understanding where exactly you can go with it. And so you're right, to be able to pull out that vocal range and do those things. I do think he is exceptional. However, I'll give you some pushback here. I think in terms of range, and power of range and versatility and vocal, just the ability to really kind of take a sharp left turn, but still hit the high notes consistently, I don't think anybody touches Freddie Mercury. I think, number one, I think it helps that he had extra teeth. He had 4 extra teeth, which made his mouth wider, which means he could hit those high notes. And a lot of people don't know that about him. I did watch the movie Once Upon a Time. I've always wanted to go overseas and see all the artifacts and stuff like that, because it really are my favorite band. But I don't think it's just Freddie. I think him and Aretha Franklin share the top spot, which is ironic because when you look at it, Freddie actually took a lot of his inspiration directly from Aretha Franklin. Somebody to Love was actually a song that he wrote and emulated a lot of what Aretha did in her gospel style, in the way that, she was really, she's the queen, I think, in a lot of ways. So I think in terms of vocal range and just sheer power, like Freddie, and the way I can tell this, there are certain artists you can do for, if you're going to do karaoke, you know what I mean? Like there are certain artists you can go up there and you can comfortably pick. I can do Frank Sinatra on karaoke. That's fine. You know what I mean? Frankie, I got it. Great voice,
All right.
but it's not that hard.
I got a crooner over here. Goodness.
It's not that tough.
The next member of the Rat Pack is sitting next to me, Nathan Wangler.
Yeah. Freddie is not an option. There are songs where, I can try. I can give it, the old college try, but I'm not hitting those high notes. I'm not hitting a lot of those things that he used to do, vocally speaking. I just think he was just on a different level, man. I thought he was.
If you got 2, and I won't, because I want to get to this, the Club Cup stuff.
Yeah.
And I throw an honorable mention in there since you had 2 when you're talking about range and power.
Yeah.
Corey Taylor of Slipknot and Stone Sour.
Yeah.
Because if you listen to certain Stone Sour songs and someone say, wow, that's really good, he's got vocal range up and down on a softer side, and you said, that's actually the lead singer of Slipknot, who also sings the song People Equal Shit.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
That is, and the way he does it, how he has that rap tone, how he can scream, but then he sings. And then when you hear Stone Sour and you hear ballads and stuff, you're like, what in the Sam Nation is this?
Yeah.
How is that the same guy?
Mm-hmm.
So mine more modern than yours, but wrong. Is there a wrong answer in that 4? Nope.
Nope.
I'll give a tip to the cap to Freddie and Aretha all day and every day.
Yeah, and it's amazing because I remember taking a music like history class in college and just learning about him in particular, how you can be so, so beautiful and soft, but then also have that other side. Even in a lot of Slipknot songs, you see
Oh
both
yeah,
of that. You see both of that. So
it's amazing. It's how he just
yeah,
it's incredible. It's
crazy.
incredible what they
I'm gonna
do.
get a text from JT here at some point telling me who his selection is. So who do you got, Jonathan Turner, if you're listening right now?
Yeah, Michael, Peter, if you're out there, give us a comments. Who do you guys think?
Let us
So let's
know.
get to this Club Cup thing. You heard me yesterday. I love it. I think it's fantastic.
It is,
Now,
yeah,
now
fascinating.
the question
Yeah.
is it drawing? Well, I think the expectations are probably not where they thought it was going to be just because on names themselves, but
Mhm.
they're still not bad. It's not
Mhm.
terrible.
Mhm.
The average attendance is more than any MLS stadium,
Right.
but the problem is they're playing in football stadiums,
Right.
70, 80,000 places. And then when you cram 45,000 into it, that's still a lot of people. But
Right.
in hindsight, it's only half of what that capacity is.
And the
What do
other
you
thing
think?
is, well, so here it is, right? So the biggest question mark, and we saw it on social yesterday, was Chelsea's opener. So they
2
played,
mil
yeah,
LAFC.
yeah, exactly, which was
Mhm.
cool to see. But played against LAFC, and to their point, you saw the pictures of the stadium. Like it was something Galazzo was talking about. It's something a lot of other platforms were talking about, and people really started to kind of dig in deep on FIFA. Like in this case, if attendance is bad, FIFA is going to take the brunt of it, and as they should. There's a lot of people that believe FIFA as an organization is not where they should be, that they are, maybe in one way or the other corrupt. And I
They got a
can't say
strong arm, a strong arm.
that they don't have a point. But here's my thing, right? Because we have to be willing to compare it to something that's similar. We only have to go back 2 years, John Natali, to see the last time that Chelsea played inside of this stadium. Okay, it was a friendly. They played in the
Mhm.
same stadium. Attendance was well over 17,000. Now, is that great for that stadium? No, clearly you can fit a lot more in there. But right now, the FIFA World Cup is averaging about 45,000 fans, right? When you factor in the big venues and then the ones that maybe didn't really have as much. But the issue with me is this: it's in America, fair, but are we crafting it for American fans? Okay. That's the question that I have in mind. That game yesterday was played at 3 o'clock
Yeah,
in
it's
the
allows you
afternoon
start time on a Monday.
on a Monday. Okay. And I know we've had this conversation in the past about, well, where are you, soccer fans? Why are you not showing up? Like, why aren't you just jumping at the opportunity to go watch Barney? Who's Barney? the
I
big
love
big
you. You
dinosaur?
love me. Gee, I wonder who that is.
When it
The
comes from me
National
to
Soccer
you,
Network, huh?
won't you say you
Who
love me
controls
too?
that login? Goodness, man. Thought you
It
had
wasn't me.
meetings.
Wasn't me.
I know it wasn't you.
Anyways, getting back on. So it's in America, but it is in my mind, in my professional, not professional, semi-professional opinion, you can't just look at soccer fans and go, why are you not there? Right? Why are you not there? Why are you not showing up? Because we know they exist, and especially on that side of the country, they exist in large numbers, and I'm sure they would like to go see it. I know that they're not sending their best players. We could talk about that in a moment as well. But is it being crafted for American fans? By the way, it just for reference, 3 o'clock there is about 8 o'clock in the UK, right?
Mhm.
So they know what their target audience is. So
Yep.
my question to you, John Natali, is the American fan on the front of their minds with some of these games, or are
No,
they trying to shape it for the fan in the UK?
they're definitely trying to shape it for Europe. Easy. For one, who knew about it coming here? That's the thing. This thing hasn't been widely promoted. I'd say they started late this year, even promoting it. And here we are already. It was last year where we actually started talking about the World Cup, which is in 2026. So this is a brand new thing. They've never done this before. And there was so much pushback in Europe from everybody saying, no, we don't want to send our players. No, we're in season. No, we don't want to do this. And FIFA, strong arm, said, well, we're doing it. And if we're not doing it here, then we'll do it in the United States. They would love it. They'll take it. And we did. But to appease all the fans that cannot make it here to watch it, they set it up like they would set it up in Europe. So they were trying to appease both. And unfortunately, it left American fans on the short end of the stick because, I mean, really, it's not like opening. You and I did this. Everybody's done this at least once. Opening day for baseball. You know you skipped high school. You know you did. You got sick. There was something wrong with you. No. You were fourth row at Jacobs Field when they opened up against the Mariners back in 1994 for the home opener at Jacobs Field when they rebuilt that stadium. I was there. Come on. Bill Clinton was there. It's fantastic. Right. And I did that, I think, every year in high school. Never missed opening day. But that was the excuse. Soccer's not that. You're not going to skip work to go see Chelsea versus LAFC. You're just not going to do it. Is the matchup intriguing? Absolutely it is. You have a team that was third in the Premier League playing a team that's up towards the top in MLS, but no one was there to see it because of the time. I'm sure it was. I'd like to see the TV numbers. Michael makes a great point. The TV numbers, those contracts are huge, huge. And that's really what appeased. Whatever network was showing that back in London made out like bandits because those people are watching out of work, got the kids from daycare, already ate dinner. We've got something to do at 8:00. And that's what they do. Right. Because they'd be there live. And if they support their team, which they do, they're watching it on TV. So I think the whole actual attendance thing versus what they're making is kind of a hidden stone.
And it creates an interesting conversation, too, because everything in my mind with what we're doing right now with the FIFA Club World Cup and obviously with Gold Cup, but all the different things that are going on stateside when it comes to the game of soccer right now leading up to the World Cup in 2026, it almost kind of, from my perspective, it feels like FIFA in a way is kind of using this as like a warm-up to what the World Cup can be. Maybe, trying to figure out some of the logistics, maybe trying to figure out some of the things that they need to figure out ahead of the World Cup in 2026 in order to be in the right position to deliver a good product. But, there are other layers to this. And again, I don't want to go to this point with this show, right? We've talked about it in the past. We want to keep this PG. We want to keep this family friendly. But there are things going on in our country right now that could probably in one way or another affect the way that attendance works at events.
Talk about
like
it.
This.
Talk about it.
I think
Talk about
I
why. Because it's happening.
It's happening. Yeah, I do.
There are policies in place from the administration that don't allow people in this country to watch and support their teams. That's so stupid.
Yeah.
It's beyond stupid.
Yeah. And it's not just, okay, they're not showing up to the games, right? And we could talk about LA in particular. It's not just that they're not coming out and they're not watching the games. A lot of them just aren't leaving their house. A lot of them aren't leaving where they are, where they absolutely need to be. A lot of them just don't want to be out and about. And so I think, and I'll ask you this, John, because I've been thinking about this myself from what I've been seeing from different people in the soccer space that have been talking about this. And I know this is kind of a sharp turn away from the FIFA Club World Cup in particular. This is more a general question when it comes to the World Cup coming up next year. Is the United States on the verge of maybe spoiling their chances of having something that could, in other ways, be something that changes the game here in the U.S.? I think it could get real messy real quick.
Let's just let's look at the nuts and bolts of this. Is this Club Cup is a precedent for what's going to happen next year.
Oh.
Let's go back to 94. Let's go back to 99 when it was on soil. And you remember that. Everybody remembers that. Somebody in that era who is old enough remembers what it was like during that time. And unfortunately, let's take it at the Club Cup first.
Yeah.
That, to me, do you know how bad I want to go to Philadelphia this upcoming Sunday to see Juventus? That is my team. And they're here in the States. Chelsea's here. Man City's here. Bayern Munich's here. Like, it stuns me that they're all on our soil. And it sucks that there's nothing close to me where these teams are playing. But I think once it starts to get down to a Juventus versus Chelsea, can you imagine that? You don't see that often overseas, but a Juventus versus Chelsea, a Man City versus Bayern Munich, a Real Madrid versus who else is in this thing? There's so many I can't even think of them. But or like Real Madrid versus a Seattle Sounders. Once you get to those final games, it's going to matter. People are going to go because they're going to start to understand who is here. We have the top tier club teams here right now.
Right.
Next year is a whole other ball of wax. And it sucks that the U.S. men's national team doesn't have the competitive nature to compete right now with any of those teams next year. Beating Trinidad and Tobago, come on. Oh, we won 5-0. You did exactly what you should have. It should have been more, to be honest with you. That country has 1.3 million people. And here we are with 345 million, and that's what we put out. Hence losing, getting smoked by Switzerland, getting beat by Turkey. Don't come out arms raised and beating your chest because you beat Trinidad and Tobago 5-0.
Right.
I think the Gold Cup's going to be more detrimental to the United States than this Club Cup.
Yeah.
I think we'll welcome that because, as we talked about yesterday, the influence that Messi has had on Major League Soccer has been immense. Has been so big. And if some of these players see what he's getting here, who knows? You never know that. And now that they're actually going to be on our soil and see conditions, and maybe their lives might be a little better overall, who knows who may come? You know what? I love playing soccer. I just love the game, but I know I can make so much more money if I go play for an LAFC, if I go play for an FC Cincinnati or something like that. It could happen. It could happen. I'm not saying it's going to, but I think this Club Cup is a great setup for that.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't happen overnight.
No, it's the first time. This is the first year that it's happening.
And that was the part of the conversation yesterday, especially once we got towards the end. Does it directly translate? Well, it's not going to translate tomorrow.
Right. It's not going to move the meter.
A week from now.
You got to start. I mean, we just turned a car on. Let the thing warm up a little bit. Right. Jeez.
So that actually brings up an interesting subject and actually a topic. And this is something we're going to start doing on Inside the Game, but it is our question of the day. Does Messi move the needle in American soccer? Now, Natali, I would like to find a day and age where you and I can vehemently disagree on a subject. I don't think that's going to be today, however.
We'll get there. We'll move the needle eventually.
We'll move a lot of
show
stuff.
One with just two of us, so we'll get there, trust me.
But does he move the needle? I think Michael brings up an interesting subject here. There's just too much going on soccer-wise at the moment.
Good point,
Club,
Michael. You're exactly
Gold, MLS.
Right. Look at all that. 1,
USL
2, 3, 4, 5.
It is just it is
have
a lot of
mentioned
ways
that before.
oversaturated.
We have mentioned that before. You're 100% right, Michael. And to that point, real quick, is that we're talking about crowds, and Galazzo mentioned it, CBS mentioned it, and some of the other networks, they also mentioned it too. Watch a UFL game. Watch a UFL. You want to talk about no attendance for the sport that reigns supreme here in the United States, and we're talking about attendance for soccer. There are people there at soccer. There's nobody that goes to UFL games. I mean, it's empty. You see these guys score touchdowns and they pump in that fan crowd noise, and you're like, where did that come from? Are they all sitting behind us? Because it's blank. It's just empty. It's empty seats. So it's just, you're right. It's too much. It is way too much. It's in the middle of the MLS season. It's in the middle of USL Championship. Nate and I are doing USL 2 games. We're doing USL 1. We're doing USLW, WPSL, NPSL. And the list goes on and on and on. How much soccer is being played. So that's a great point. But to the question of the day, it leaves me speechless.
Yeah.
Everywhere I go, I see something of that man.
Mm-hmm.
I told you, it's in JC Penney going, when you go to the mall, you either go through the mall entrance or you go through the big border stores like a JC Penney, a Macy's or anything. Just walking through, boom, kiosk, Messi cologne, $75 a pop, 85 for the gift set. And it smelled fantastic. It hit the pheromones in the right spot. But then you go and you're walking past Champs and you look to the right. What do you see? A wall of Messi jerseys. You go to Dick's, you see his shoes, you see his jerseys. Everywhere you go, the man is plastered. And you know what? When you look around and people are wearing soccer stuff, who is it?
Yeah.
It's him. It's not a New England Revolution jersey. It's not a Portland Timbers. It's him.
Yeah.
Number 10, Messi. Not even a plain Inter Miami shirt. It's him. So did he move them? He broke the needle. He's like those cartoons in Bugs Bunny where it goes to, and it's like gets bigger and then pops out of the glass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also interesting too, because when you look at like when the NFL goes overseas and plays games, right? You will see, it's my favorite part about whenever they play overseas, because you look in the crowd and you can pick out one by one, depending on where they're sitting. There's a Dolphins jersey, there's a Brady jersey, there's a jersey of someone else in the league, all very popular, all superstars, right? And we all admit here in the United States, the NFL is undefeated in terms of how they market their superstars.
By far.
I know that Major League Baseball is catching up. They're doing very well. I think maybe some of that has to do with betting, but we can leave that for another day. I realize the other leagues are doing better at it. No one is better at it, though, than the NFL. And so when you go across overseas, they're fans of American football, and they're fans of these players that are from the United States, these superstars. Now, does that mean that automatically translates to they're going to be producing players as good as what we have over here to play the game of American football? No, because they don't have the knowledge, they don't have the skill set, they don't have the base. But I'll take Canada as an example, right? Canada has gotten much better when it comes to the soccer sphere, and we see more players coming. We see them developing more. Lions just got a lineman from Canada not too long ago. I'm trying to, what's his name?
Oh, you said soccer players. You're talking
football.
You're talking football. Okay.
Yeah. But that's just a case study, right? Because there are neighbors.
Is that a new position? Who?
Yeah.
What's a lineman on the pitch? I don't know that one.
But they've seen us. They've seen our model. They know how popular the game is, and it's slowly starting to get there. Now, will it ever get to the point of the United States? No. And I think that's an important piece to bring up. I don't think we will ever get quite to the scale of the major soccer playing countries in the world. We're not.
It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen.
Different over here. And it's okay to admit that. You have to admit who you are before you can go anywhere. And I remember Alexi Lalas kind of saying that in certain stretches, like, we can't just look at what they're doing and say, well, it should be that way over here. Which, to that point, when you talk about someone like Messi, will the United States ever produce a player that is even a modicum? No, we're not. Okay. But the simple act of making a soccer fan out of someone that lives in the United States will mean that attendance will grow. And not only this, and I think this is the most important part of this whole conversation, John Natali, is international brand recognition. Simply by him being in the MLS, it is a league that people care about now. Simply because of that. One person joins the league, all of a sudden the league matters, right? So the Major League Soccer, which in a lot of ways, and even before he got here, I don't know if it ever really had a place on the stage of soccer when it comes to being talked about on the world scale. I didn't think it did.
I mean, go back 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Can you name who won the MLS Cup? A measly 3 years ago.
Maybe Columbus. I have no idea. This is a
you have no idea. And name the MVP of the MLS Cup. Name two starters on their team. On either team. Who did they play?
Yeah.
No idea.
Yeah.
Not
a clue.
I couldn't guess to save my life.
Yeah.
And I love the point that you bring up about football in Europe, because you mentioned the time here.
Right.
Who watches the overseas game in Germany or London or any place like that? We're not up.
Yeah.
It's prime time for them. It's 1-2 o'clock when they kick off over there, but not here. It's in the morning and nobody's tuning in. I think NFL Network might play the game, but nobody's watching it here. And we don't care. That is the thing about it, Nate. How many fan bases don't care when their teams go overseas?
Yeah.
The Browns are going over this year. They're playing the Vikings. I'm not going to get up for that. I'm a big Browns fan, unfortunately, but I'm not going to get up at 8:30 on a Sunday to watch that game because it takes away from them being here.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes away a game for Minnesota here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's what's happening here with the Club Cup.
Right.
But they care, because it's 8 o'clock at night. And that's what's more important. So Michael's point carries over to that they don't cater to us on these sending these away games. They know that they're going to sell out any stadium over there because it's not saturated. They're not playing football. There is a European football league, but to have 7 games over the course of a 17-week season to be a novelty thing, yes, that's why it works. Here, you threw soccer into a place that has 13 leagues going on right now. Great. But that's the prime soccer, and it's the first year, and we got to give it time. It wasn't going to happen when it first started on Saturday.
Yes.
I mean, we're 3 days into the thing.
All right. And it takes it that's the biggest part of this conversation is it takes time. It takes time to marinate. It takes time to grow. I think when you look at, specifically, and you're right. I mean, there are American football leagues scattered across the world. Now, are they popular? Do they gain any attention? No, because again, they're simply their understanding of the game and the training and everything that goes into it. I'll never forget, when Caledonia High School, which is a high school out this direction, they had their American football season begin with a Canadian team from Windsor, Ontario, Canada. I'll never forget when they rolled up to our stadium because, again, keep in mind, they're used to, much like American soccer players, right, playing in stadiums that are not great, right? I mean, they're almost kind of like backfields in a way. They get here and they see what Caledonia High School has, which is really a metropolis in terms of, you want to talk about high school football. It's one of the best stadiums on the west side of the state. All of them immediately just pull out their phones and start taking pictures and videos. I mean, instantaneously. I mean, this is the coolest place that they've ever played. And it's amazing to us because we realize, well, this is a nice high school stadium. But have you seen the other major stadiums in the state? I mean, like the Big House, like Spartan Stadium, like all these, and that's simply because, again, they enjoy football in Canada, but they're just not there yet. They continue to produce better players. They continue to produce more guys that are playing in the NFL or major college football here in the United States. Are they going to be able to compete on a national level against the U.S.? No, I don't think anybody will. But you could also say the same thing, and that's where my mind goes when it comes to soccer. Again, it is not going to be a day or a week later, but the more that you can get those best players in the world in front of American fans, you're going to do something in the way of changing them and making them want to watch soccer more often, even on a minor scale, right? The individual that does the filming for me whenever we do Midwest United or Holland Rover games over in this direction, not a soccer guy at all. Matter of fact, the reason why he came on with our company and wanted to start doing filming was because he was doing DoorDash, right? And DoorDash is not the most
God bless his
reliable
heart.
source
Doesn't
of
matter.
income.
Bless his heart.
He was
Thank you.
grinding, man.
Yeah,
He was
thank you.
grinding. Yeah.
Great
Yeah. We salute you,
I
AJ. But he was talking to me the other night, and I loved hearing it because I have gone through the same exact transformation, and he kind of confirmed exactly what I've gone through. But we're sitting there gaming, hanging out, and he goes, I kind of like soccer. He's like, it's physical out there. It's chippy. It's high energy. It's exciting, especially when it's a close game late in the match. And I'm like, yes. And so I'm like, would you watch an international game? Would you watch any of these things? We're gonna, and he's like, yeah, absolutely, I would. We're gonna get 2 soccer balls and we're gonna have the team sign them, and maybe I don't know. We wanted to grab a jersey. I don't know if that's possible, but that's where it needs to begin in the United States. That's where it needs to start. I don't care who you cheer for. I don't care if you're playing in a backfield, if you're playing in a park somewhere. I don't care. But do you enjoy the game? Do you find it thrilling to watch soccer? And if that is the case, and if all it takes is you went out and you saw Messi, or you're wearing a Messi jersey, or you just want to catch the one international superstar that decided late in his career that he wanted to come to the United States and play, and that's what got you into it, fine. That's what got you in the door. Everybody needs something to get them in the door. Once they're in the door, what they want to do with that is up to them. But the struggle here in the United States is, can you pull people away from American football? Can you pull people away from baseball? Can you pull people away from all of these other sports that have been so established for so many years? Because again, keep in mind, Europe has the one thing over us, that's history. History of the game being
not just Europe, not just Europe. South America.
Everywhere.
Is above us. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the world's game. Soccer is the world's game. It's not the United States game. It's the world's game. That's right. One thing to factor right there.
Right.
And when you're talking about that, you make a lot of valid points, Nate, in the fact that soccer here, we are, at best, mediocre, would you say? As far as international play, just putting our best versus everybody else, mediocre.
16th. Yeah, it's 16th on the world list. Yeah.
But go back to the Olympics of last year and the United States team, and you talked about the Dream Team in 92. I talk about the Redeem Team in 2012. And then last year with Steph Curry absolutely losing his mind in that final versus France. God. However, the difference is that soccer as a whole here in the United States, we're not competitive across the world. However, if you took the best, and the problem with basketball and baseball and all this is that we're taking players, especially in the Olympics, that Nate, you disappeared. That we took players that are just from one country. We're playing Serbia's, we're playing France that don't even come close. But if you took the best of international and put them up against the best of the United States, it's a whole different story. Every other country, continent, everything has, I'm by myself. I'm flying solo. Good catch, Gabriel. So I'll get to my point. And you guys, Michael, Gabriel, everybody help me out on here, is that the world is caught up with everything. If you took the 5 best NBA players and put them against the 5 best American NBA players, it would be one hell of a game. Or I should say 10 on 10. If you took the 10 best international players and put them against 10 of the best United States players, it would be a hell of a game. Same with baseball. When we do the World Baseball Classic, we don't win. We don't win. It's Japan. It's Mexico. We don't win it. Right. We compete, but we don't win it. Hockey, we don't win. And hockey, we're playing other countries and we're not playing the world. If you took everybody from the world and put them together and put them against the best of the Americans, the only sport where we would dominate would be football. That's it. The only one. We get challenged in baseball, America's pastime. We get destroyed in hockey. With basketball, that would be probably the most competitive one. And soccer's not even close. Doesn't even come on the radar.
Right.
So the world has caught up to us in every sport except football. And we have yet, and we're not going to catch up in soccer. Just not going to happen.
Right.
It's not our MO. It's not the United States MO for soccer. It's a great side hustle.
Yeah.
So to speak. But
right.
It's not ever going to get that. I don't care who comes here.
Right.
But you look, going back to the question of the day, you look at what Messi has done. Did it move the needle? 100% it did.
Yeah.
Because his salary is not just coming from Inter Miami. It's coming from every MLS team. Think about that. They knew. I don't care if he doesn't play for us. We got to get him there. Yeah, Nate, you disappeared.
Sorry, our dog was having a tough time standing up upstairs. I could hear him struggling, fighting for his life, so I had to go help him out. But,
that's all right. Solo joined me, so we got the two-man crew back. Yeah, we're just gonna let him hang out.
Yeah, but that is the whole part about this conversation that, you know, and I think it's tough for us to admit that, and it's important to realize on social media, if you're watching this show right now, by the way, welcome in, Gabe. Appreciate you stopping by, buddy. But anybody else that may be watching or consuming this is not people. One of the main comments that I always see on these videos is, looks like American exceptionalism has seeped into the soccer space. Guys, I am not ever going to claim that we are supposed to dominate the rest of the world in the game of soccer. I realize that's not a realistic thought, even. Now, the women's team, okay, but again, extenuating circumstances, right? There are other parts of the world where women haven't had the same access to training, practice, development, all these other things. Like, we've been ahead of the curve in that way in the United States and a lot of other parts of the world. And so I think there's a reason why our women's team has been able to be as successful as they have. On the men's side, it will never be there. And this is, so it's not us saying we need to be the best, but at least when it comes to the U.S. men's national team, and I know we can talk about that a little bit because, you know, clearly you and I have been following this and I've been talking about this in length, especially on the social side. It's not about necessarily, we're not even at the point of being the best, right? Our expectations, at least mine are in the right place, which is I don't expect us to win a World Cup. I don't think anyone in their right mind would expect us to go out and do that. Now, I liked what you said yesterday, you know, like the what if scenario, because I do think that is a fun game to play. I don't know, it won't ever happen, but you can at the very least show that you care and you can put up a fight. And it's amazing how far that will go for the usual American fan. Because I will agree with JT on one thing. Does it create a sense of national pride watching Messi play? No. No, it doesn't. You know, no one's like, oh, you know, yay USA by watching Messi play. Now, we realize that he's willing to come here and play in the United States and that athletes want to come here. That is something that I think is important for people to realize, right? And when Alexi Lalas says, you know, lift the restrictions on the MLS and their owners and let them just go hog wild, I think there's some validity to how that could help out the league.
There's a lot of merit to that.
It's a lot of resources here in the United States that I know players would like to take advantage of, including one Messi, because he can still play at a high level. But national pride, again, to JT's point, is important when it comes to getting Americans to want to, again, spend their money on soccer, play the sport of soccer, take them away from the other sports. But it's tough to have any of that when your players are finding excuses not to play. And it's even harder to buy it when you look at players like Messi, who, despite how many games that man is playing, at the age that he's playing,
37.
is still representing, 37 years old, is still representing Argentina. these top end players are still doing everything they can to put on that national team jersey, because
The
that's
irony
what
of
it's
that,
all
Nate.
for. That's what it's all for.
The irony of that, though, is that when you think of your American pride and being proud of the American team, let's face the only time that people care about the American team is every 4 years or two. When is it? It's 4 years for the World Cup.
Four
right?
for the World Cup. Yeah. Yep.
And that's all when we care about it. But you look at sports like football, basketball, all that stuff. Do we have American pride in that? No, we don't. Why? Because if I'm a Cavs fan, I hate the Pistons. I hate the Pacers. I hate the Bulls. I hate the Bucks. I'm city driven. I'm not like, I like the NBA. I'll watch the Kings and the Nuggets at 10 o'clock on ESPN or NBA and TNT, but I'm not cheering for them. I'm not like, boom, I love the US because I'm watching the Nuggets. I don't give a crap about that. And we don't celebrate our nationalism through football.
Mhm.
I mean, football is the most rivaled thing. Football here is like soccer in Europe. We have rivalries. Browns fans hate Steelers fans.
Mhm.
Lions fans hate Bears fans. It's just the way it is. Would you ever root for Chicago? I don't think so. I don't like those people. And this is how when Ohio State. So I love when Ohio State loses, because so many people in Cleveland, they say, well, if you're from Cleveland, you should like Ohio State. Really? That's in the contract? That's in the lease?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember signing that paper. So they drive me nuts. But when they lose and they're out of it, but let's say Michigan gets to the national championship. Do you think that Ohio State fans root for Michigan because they're in the Big Ten? Absolutely. They want to see them get destroyed by whoever they play. So
Yes.
this merit of saying, well, we got to pound out the red, white, and blue and the 50 stars or whatever, we don't have that. We don't.
Yeah.
And even in the Olympics, we only care when someone wins.
Mhm.
If someone gets bounced early, we don't know. We don't know who lost the bobsled from the American team
Mhm.
or the biathlon.
Mhm.
We don't know about that. But if they win, hey, we won the discus.
Right. Yeah.
All right.
Right.
Yay, USA. Come on.
Mhm.
We don't have any nationalism on ourselves.
Mhm.
And to your point, the novelty is if the men's national team somehow, some way was able to pull it off, or maybe get to the final, maybe they beat Italy, or maybe they beat Germany in the semis, a huge game, and they play a Brazil, or they play a France or something like that in the final, and it's 2-1, 3-2, 1-0, something, and it's competitive. Would it move the needle of soccer? I don't think that would, but it would say, hey, here's a building block. This is where we got. Now let's build on it, because we only do it every 4 years.
Oh, right.
What are we doing in between that 4? Well, we did something. We brought Messi over here.
Yeah.
We started to give a shit at that point. So why not? How do we build in between World Cups? Because it's only going to be here next year. It's not going to be here in 2030.
Right. And the hardest part is during a time where American fans are trying to cling to anything they can to be excited about what's coming up. It seems as if now more than ever that hope has not only dwindled, but it's in a lot of ways it's disappeared. Now they play Saudi Arabia on Thursday. I do think it'd be interesting, and I'd be interested to hear what you have to say about it. Now, we're all busy. I don't know if I would be able to be live for that, but we're going to get you our reactions on the show the following day on Inside the Game. By the way, weekdays, 9 to 10 a.m. with John Natali and myself, so we'll talk over exactly what went on in that game. But I think maybe if we ever get the opportunity to maybe do a live show during one of the games, I think it'd be interesting to see what our reactions are to watching that team, because normally it's been a heart attack live. Obviously, Trinidad and Tobago was a different story. They did well in that game, but it'll be unique to see exactly how they progress through this tournament and what the goal is for next year. But when in an area of the year, again, when American fans just need something, they need something to cling to. They need something to realize that, okay, there's momentum heading into the World Cup. For whatever reason, we've almost, in a lot of ways, kind of hit rock bottom. And my concern is that when this team faces a little bit of adversity, and I made a statement on social media, and I said that it's because of the soccer culture that they break under a certain amount of scrutiny from the American media, and it doesn't take much. What is your opinion on that? Can they handle the scrutiny? Can they handle not winning? Or is this, in one way or another, is this kind of a statement more on Mauricio Pochettino? Do they believe that he is the guy to help this side become the best they can be leading up to that World Cup? Because that's kind of where my mind goes. I mean, 4 straight international losses, like, you don't get any kudos after that happens, especially the countries you've been losing to. I think there might be something to be said there. Maybe the players themselves don't believe he's the guy. But then again, we never get any information out of him anyways, because they're so guarded, they're so protected. So you'll never know. But there might be something to be talked about there too.
Nobody is helping the American fan gravitate to soccer as far as it comes to U.S. soccer and or really FIFA for that matter, because you have to win. Winning is everything. Winning drives your attention. Winning drives your excitement. It brings you closer to whatever. And I go back to when you watch, we're right in the middle of the NBA finals and the NHL finals, right? When you watch it, every time you see a champion, you feel something. You do. Because that team went through the grind. They went through the whole way. Just the other day, let's go back to, let's take high school. When I did the state finals for softball at Purdue, I saw 4 teams battle their hearts out since March that got to the final game. And it was disappointing to have to announce a loser. And I was so excited for the winners of that team. And we do that. It's just a natural reaction. But we're relying on 20 players out of 340 million to go play the best in the world who are a lot better at the sport that they're playing. And I don't even think it's not the coach that I don't even think they believe in themselves. I don't think any one of those players, and I will die on this hill, any one of those players is going into the World Cup thinking, we got a shot. They're probably saying the same thing you and I are, that, if we win, that would be pretty cool if we were able to don't go in with that attitude, because you're setting yourself up like, so if we don't win, we weren't expected to win. If we do, great. But if we don't, no big deal. That's what I think their mentality is. And does that bleed on the coach? Yes. But the players are old enough and skilled enough and mature enough to have a mentality to say, listen, you see it all the time. You hear it all the time, Nate. Players meeting only. What happens after those?
Mm-hmm.
Something happens after those meetings. Mm-hmm. They come out. It doesn't matter which sport. They come out. They're on fire. They're motivated. Their chemistry is better. Their continuity is better. And they don't care about the coach. They play for themselves. USA does not play for themselves. Mm-hmm. Or I should say within themselves. They're individualistic, but as a team, they're terrible. Because they have no expectation of themselves. And maybe it takes the media to kick that in their butt to say, yeah, go ahead and go out there. Because if you get mauled or you get beat, we're going to embarrass you bad. Mm-hmm. But the media doesn't even do that with soccer. No. USA basketball, yes.
Yeah.
Baseball, yes. Soccer, nope. You said it yesterday. Stephen A is not going to come on First Take the next morning and start ripping into U.S. men's national team because they lost.
Yeah.
They lost. All right, great.
Yeah, just not invested. And it's not, and again, it's just not where the moneymaker is. And that's the thing that fascinated me is I actually saw Alexi Lalas go on The Herd with Colin Cowherd a few days ago. And what's so funny, and you know who Nick Wright is, huge, he's a goofball, but big Chiefs fan, talks about football all the time. And I love the awareness, and I'll give them kudos because despite what you think about Cowherd and Nick Wright and those guys,
I was on Cowherd's show once.
Really?
Yeah, I'll send you the audio back in 2012. I was on there. I'll send it to you. But go ahead.
What was the conversation about?
Kentucky basketball when they won the championship in 2012.
Wow. Okay. You were involved
Yep.
in that?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I'll send it to you.
Awesome. Yeah, I would love to see that. But regardless of what you think of those two, the truth is this. They were willing and open to go, listen, we don't really follow the game quite like that. But what they were willing to do is at least have the talk, which a lot of people in that position would not be comfortable having if they weren't familiar with the game itself. And Alexi Lalas responds to it beautifully. He goes, I am willing to open the book of soccer to anybody who's willing to read. I am open to having that conversation with anyone who's willing to have it, right? Because, and he didn't say the second part, I'm saying the second part. And it's because I see the value in getting the media to a point to where they're willing to come out and criticize. They're willing to come out and be critical in their way of thinking around not only this national team, but again, just the state of soccer in the United States. Because what that tells me is that when they become more invested, maybe the players are going to start to feel not only the pressure a little bit more, but maybe understand why it matters a little bit more. Because that's the hardest part about me when you talk about Mauricio Pochettino is, does he speak in a way to where he can command a room? Does he speak in a way to where he can get through to his American-born players? I don't know. And that's why we've always talked about, would it have been better to go with the Jesse Marsh? Wouldn't it have been better to go with someone who is American-based or who has played on that team before? Because that is the hardest thing in my mind. And this feels like tryouts. I realize we don't have to qualify. Right. So there's an element of that. You don't have to, we could lose every match.
Don't you think that? Think about that though. Think about that mentality. It's that if we don't win this, it doesn't matter. We're going to be there anyway.
Exactly.
So we don't have to put any effort into this.
Exactly. But you're trying out new people.
Excite one person. You're right. Yeah. It is tryouts. It's an extended tryout.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah. Extended tryout. I mean, you had 3 different players who got their first cap in that game against Trinidad and Tobago. But my question is, and I know we're coming up against the time here, once you get farther enough down the line to where you're trying out new players, you're trying out new stuff, you're trying out new formations, when are we supposed to know when you finally hammer down exactly what you think will work in that World Cup? Or is this just we're just throwing darts at the dartboard? Because if we're just throwing darts at the dartboard a year before the World Cup comes to town, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Do you want to hear my Cowherd thing? I found it.
Yes, I would absolutely love to hear it.
All right. Now remember, I had a legal last name change. So my previous name was Kupo.
Okay.
And now it's Natali, but here we go.
I just don't know why anybody struggles with Kentucky having 5 starters go to the NBA. I don't think we'd argue if Harvard had 5 kids going on a technology grant somewhere or starting up companies. I find Kentucky basketball players to be classified as gifted. Doesn't bother me. John Kupo, ESPN Radio in Lexington. It was interesting. They kind of shifted around the press conference. They put it on the NFL Gets Its Schedule release day. In the media outside of Kentucky, there was a sense that Kentucky was sort of trying to kind of make this kind of diffuse this story. And, it got released on the day that the NFL schedules get released. Did you feel like that in Kentucky? It was a little embarrassment, all 5 guys leaving?
Well, Colin, when you lose 5 guys that account for 92% of your points, 90% of your rebounds, and 96% of your assists, things are probably not looking too good. But with Coach Cal, and he's a master at this, when you're bringing his 4th straight top recruiting class, and Will Cauley, Alex Poitras, Archie Goodwin, and of course Nerlens Noel. You also have Anthony Bennett and Emil Jefferson sitting out there who have yet to commit. the team actually kind of looks more formidable than this year's team.
Yesterday they
Now
all.
he tries to
Is there
take
a
me
sense though? Like obviously Anthony Davis should leave. I mean, that's a no-brainer. But then they have the guard Teague and are all 5 of these guys ready for the NBA?
I would say that 3 are ready for the NBA, Colin. I would say that Teague and also Deron Lamb are probably the 2 wild cards in that. You can probably project them late first round, early second for the both of those. But you still have Darius Miller, who could be 6. And with 2010 class of having 5 guys leave, it's almost like a game. We want to see if we can get 5 into the NBA this year. Possibly that 6th guy, which is either going to be, again, a Marcus Teague or a Deron Lamb.
Good stuff, John. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Colin.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Good stuff. Good stuff, man. The Calipari days at Kentucky. Those
Yep.
were
now
those were some
Razorback
years, man.
is that man. Talk about not caring. Talk about being at Kentucky, and of all places, you go to Arkansas.
Yeah, that's a little get back, I think, is what that was. It's still
It is.
amazing to me that he didn't win more than one national championship at Kentucky.
Because Kentucky, it's all one. I mean, we got a whole conversation about
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
Kentucky's not going to put a team together that's been together 2-3 years. Those guys go there for 1 year expecting to go to the NBA.
Yep.
It's a farming ground for NBA players, just like Carolina is now, just like Duke is now.
Right.
That's why those teams aren't winning
Right.
the championships, because it's just, we're going to go play at the best college that we can. We're going to do our individual stuff, and then we're going to get drafted.
So here, I'm going to try this really quick. Am I okay? Am I okay? Am I good?
Nope.
What? Up.
Yep.
All right, how about now? Good?
Well, now the music's off.
Good? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. It's very light.
I think if you turn it up louder, though, you won't want.
Am I whopping still?
No, see, if you turn it
All
up,
right.
you don't, yeah, see? I figured it out.
That's
Don't
it
do
for
it low.
episode.
If you do it low, I don't know what happens, but now we got the music, so.
That's episode
job,
102 of Inside the Game. Appreciate you guys as always stopping by. We will see you back tomorrow. Continue the conversation. Trying to get soccer to a good point in the country. Trying to figure out what the Dancing team will do. They'll play again on Thursday against Saudi Arabia. Until we talk to you guys tomorrow morning, thanks for stopping by yet again on Inside the Game.